I still remember the smile on my son-in-law's face when he kicked the tire of my old pickup and laughed. "You seriously drove this piece of junk here?" he asked loud enough for everyone in the parking lot to hear. My daughter looked down, too embarrassed to defend me. I smiled, but inside, something broke. What he didn't know was that the worn-out truck he mocked had been carrying a secret for over 30 years, and by the end of that week, everyone would wish they had treated me differently. If you're enjoying stories like mine, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to Family Betrayal. It helps keep stories like this alive. And one quick note before we continue: the faces, photos, background clips, and scenes you see are simply visual illustrations to help tell the story. They're not meant to represent the real people involved. I bought that pickup when I was 26 after working double shifts for almost 3 years. It wasn't pretty even back then, but it never failed me. It carried lumber when I built my first home. It hauled furniture when my daughter was born. It even took my late wife to the hospital the night she gave birth. Every dent had a memory attached to it. After my wife passed away, that truck became the last thing that still felt like family. My daughter understood that once. But after she married Trevor, everything changed. He judged people by the cars they drove, the watches they wore, and the size of their houses. Every visit included another joke about my truck. I always laughed it off because I didn't want to create problems for my daughter. This visit was different. Trevor had invited the whole family to an estate auction, saying there might be antiques worth buying. The second I parked beside his brand new luxury SUV, he shook his head. "You know, Dad, they actually pay people to haul scrap metal away." Everyone laughed except me. I looked at the truck for a second and remembered the promise I had made to someone years ago. A promise hidden beneath the driver's seat. I had never told a soul. As we walked toward the auction entrance, Trevor kept making jokes, completely unaware that before this day ended, that old pickup would become the most valuable vehicle anyone there had ever seen. I stayed quiet as we entered the auction hall, but Trevor wasn't finished embarrassing me. Every time someone walked past us, he'd point toward the parking lot and make another joke about my truck. "If anyone needs spare parts, my father-in-law brought a whole museum outside," he said. A few people laughed. I forced a smile because I refused to ruin my daughter's day, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. The auction moved from old furniture to vintage signs and classic tools. I barely paid attention. My mind kept drifting back to the truck. Hidden beneath the driver's seat was a small steel box wrapped in faded canvas. I hadn't opened it in decades. Only one other man had ever known it existed, my closest friend, Frank. Back in the early 1990s, Frank owned a small antique shop. One night, his store caught fire. Before the firefighters arrived, he rushed inside and came back carrying that steel box. He handed it to me and said, "If anything ever happens to me, keep this safe until the right time. Don't let anyone sell it without knowing what's inside." A month later, Frank died from a sudden heart attack. I honored his request for over 30 years. I never looked inside because I believed some promises mattered more than curiosity. Every few years, I'd check that the box was still there, then slide it back under the seat. The auctioneer suddenly announced a special event. A local collector was searching for rare historical items and would pay top dollar for anything unusual. Trevor's eyes lit up. "Now that's where real money is," he whispered. As we stepped outside during a break, an elderly man slowly walked through the parking lot. He stopped beside my pickup, staring at it with wide eyes. He gently touched the driver's door as if he recognized it. Then he turned toward me. "Excuse me," he asked quietly. "Did this truck used to belong to a man named Frank Dawson?" The sound of Frank's name sent chills through my body. I nodded. The old man's face turned pale. "I've spent 30 years looking for something that was hidden inside that truck," he said. Trevor's confident smile disappeared for the first time all day. And in that moment, I realized the secret under my seat was worth far more than any of us had ever imagined. The parking lot suddenly felt silent. Trevor stopped smiling, and my daughter grabbed my arm. The elderly man introduced himself as Daniel. His voice trembled as he explained that he had worked with Frank for years. They had been restoring historical items together before Frank died unexpectedly. Daniel looked at me and said, "Frank told me that if he couldn't finish what we started, he'd leave everything with the one man he trusted most. That was you." I unlocked the truck with shaking hands. My fingers hesitated before reaching beneath the driver's seat. The old steel box was still there, covered in the same faded canvas I had wrapped around it decades earlier. For the first time in over 30 years, I broke the tiny rusted lock. Inside were old documents, photographs, handwritten journals, and a velvet pouch. I carefully opened the pouch, revealing several rare gold coins dating back to the 1800s. Daniel gasped. Those coins were part of a collection believed to have disappeared decades ago. But the biggest surprise wasn't the coins. Folded beneath everything else was a letter with my name written in Frank's handwriting. My hands shook as I read it. If you're reading this, my friend, then the time has finally come. The coins have value, but they're not the real gift. I watched you spend your entire life putting everyone else before yourself. If no rightful owner is ever found, everything in this box belongs to you. You've earned it more than anyone I know. I couldn't stop the tears. After all those years, Frank had still found a way to take care of me. News spread through the auction within minutes. Experts examined the coins and documents. After confirming their history, they estimated the collection could bring well over $1 million. Trevor stood speechless. The same truck he had mocked all morning had carried a fortune hidden beneath his nose. For the first time since I'd met him, he couldn't look me in the eye. A months-long legal review followed. Historians searched for surviving heirs, but Frank had been right. There were no rightful claimants. His written instructions were valid, and the collection legally became mine. The auction house sold the coins, while a local museum purchased Frank's journals and photographs because they documented an important piece of local history. I suddenly had more money than I had ever imagined. Trevor showed up at my house a week later carrying expensive coffee and wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen. He apologized for every joke he had ever made. He called me Dad every other sentence. But for the first time, I could hear the difference between respect and greed. I thanked him for the apology, but I told him something I'd waited years to say. A person's value isn't measured by what they drive. It's measured by how they treat people who have nothing to offer them. He didn't argue. He simply lowered his head. I helped my daughter pay off her mortgage because she had never asked me for a single dollar. I donated part of the money to restore Frank's old cemetery and funded scholarships for local trade school students in his name. I kept the pickup truck exactly as it was. The faded paint, the cracked seat, and every dent stayed untouched. Sometimes I still drive it through town. People smile because they think it's just an old truck. They have no idea it once carried the greatest reminder of my life. Never laugh at someone's worn-out shoes, old house, or beat-up truck. You never know what sacrifices, memories, or blessings they carry with them. What would you have done if someone had treated you the way Trevor treated me? Let me know in the comments because I'd really like to hear your answer. If this story stayed with you, please share it with someone who believes kindness matters more than appearances. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Family Betrayal so you don't miss the next unforgettable story. Some treasures are made of gold. The greatest ones are made of character.